Welcome to another deep dive, this time into the human mind and its wild ride through evolution.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shared some really thought-provoking excerpts with me from Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's The Evolving Self,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really eager to kind of unpack them with you today.
Yeah.
And it especially resonated after you told me about that town meeting you went to in the Rockies.
Oh, yeah. That was something else.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how interconnected everything is.
Right.
You've got this community of people, and they think they're self-sufficient and isolated up there in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But even they're getting impacted by things happening miles and miles away.
Totally.
The smoke from the wildfires and, the construction noise and the spillover from crime in the nearby city. It's like, it's all tied together.
It really is. It makes you wonder if anyone can truly disconnect these days.
Right.
It reminds me of those other examples from the book, like the couple who went to the Falklands thinking they'd find peace and quiet.
Oh, right.
And they ended up right in the middle of a war zone.
Yeah, and then there was that industrialist who bought a private island in the Bahamas,
Right.
thinking he could escape his worries.
But they followed him there.
Exactly.
It's inescapable.
And that's kind of Csikszentmihalyi's point, right?
Yeah.
To navigate this complex and messy future that we're heading into,
Mm-hmm.
we need to understand how our evolutionary past shapes the way we think today.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The book argues that evolution isn't just about genes.
Okay.
It's about information.
Interesting.
Languages,
Yeah.
ideas, beliefs, even our sense of self,
Wow.
all competing for survival.
I like that.
You mentioned the folks who believe the universe is only 6,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the book really puts that into perspective,
Right.
Highlighting the vastness of Earth's history and the sheer amount of time that's passed.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. And speaking of minds,
Yeah.
the book really emphasizes how our human capacity for self-reflection sets us apart from other animals.
Makes sense.
It's this incredible ability that we have,
Right.
but it also brings with it some unique challenges.
Challenges. How so?
Well, challenges that stem from the very nature of the self.
Okay.
You can think of it as the software running on the hardware of your brain,
Okay.
a kind of mental operating system
Uh-huh.
shaped by millions of years of evolution.
So you're saying that understanding this operating system is key to unlocking the secrets of human psychology and happiness.
That's the idea.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Ready to dive deeper.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So this mental operating system, is it kind of buggy?
Buggy. How so?
Well, the book mentions these quirks of the evolved mind,
Right.
and some of them really made me stop and think, I've always thought I should be more in control of my thoughts, but maybe that's not how our brains are wired.
Well, let's talk about it. What are some of the quirks that stood out to you?
Well, one was that feeling of eternal dissatisfaction. I told you how I often find myself wanting a bigger house or a higher income,
Right.
and the book says that's not just me.
Okay.
Our brains are just wired to want more.
Yeah, it's kind of a leftover survival instinct from our ancestors.
But isn't that drive for more what pushes society forward?
I mean, it's led to some incredible advancements.
In technology and medicine and everything.
Absolutely. It's a powerful force, but it can also be a double-edged sword.
Oh, so?
Well, it can lead to progress, but it can also keep us on this relentless treadmill,
Okay.
always striving for the next thing, never really feeling content.
I see what you mean. So what about the mind's tendency towards chaos?
Oh, yeah.
I told you about my Sunday blues. I wake up with no plans and I just feel...
Yeah.
And unmotivated, the book's discussion of stimulus deprivation really hit home there.
Right. It's fascinating how our minds tend to drift towards negativity
Yeah.
when they're not actively engaged.
Like they need something to latch onto.
Exactly. Those stimulus deprivation studies showed how easily our thoughts can spiral
Wow.
into anxieties when we're just left to our own devices.
So maybe my Sunday blues aren't just me being lazy.
Could be.
It's my evolutionary inheritance acting up.
It's possible. Think about our ancestors for a second.
Okay.
For them, focusing on potential threats was crucial for survival.
Makes sense.
Those who were more attuned to danger, more aware of what could go wrong, they were more likely to stay alive.
So we inherited that.
That's where our negativity bias comes from.
Huh. That makes Sunday mornings a bit of a minefield for existential dread. And it's not like modern life helps much.
Right.
The book mentioned how kids see something like thousands of murders on TV
Correct.
before they even grow up.
It's true. Our environment can definitely amplify these tendencies.
Mhm.
But just like understanding the negativity bias helps us manage it.
Right.
Understanding our other quirks can help us navigate them more effectively.
Okay, so what's another example?
Well, what about the illusion of reason?
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned how surprised you were to learn that even playing chess isn't purely logical.
Yeah, that one blew my mind. I always thought of chess as like the ultimate game of reason.
It seems that way on the surface,
Yeah.
but even there, emotions play a role.
Really?
Our minds are just more complex than we often realize,
I guess so.
influenced by factors beyond logic.
So emotions are always lurking under the surface.
Pretty much, even when we think we're being totally objective.
That makes me rethink my whole approach to decision-making.
Maybe that's a good thing. Recognizing these hidden influences
Okay.
can help us make more informed choices. And speaking of choices, we can't forget about our addiction to pleasure.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the Playboy philosophy.
Exactly, the allure of just doing what feels good.
Right. That conversation really got me thinking about the downsides of that approach.
Well, the book makes a good point.
Yeah.
Our bodies just haven't evolved to handle the constant bombardment of temptations.
That we face in the modern world.
Think about our ancestors. For them,
Yeah.
salt was this scarce and vital resource. Now we're surrounded by it. And our bodies still programmed to crave it.
So we haven't caught up.
Not quite. Is it the same with so many things now? Sugar, fat, entertainment. You name it.
It's true. So if we can't always trust our gut feelings,
Yeah.
how do we find balance?
It takes conscious effort, discipline,
Yeah.
and a willingness to override those pleasure-seeking impulses.
That's tough.
Religions have traditionally played a role in setting limits.
Right.
But in our increasingly secular world, we need new approaches.
To find that healthy equilibrium.
Exactly. It makes you realize how much work it takes
Yeah.
to be truly in control. You know, you mentioned thinking that if you could just reduce external stressors, you'd be stress-free.
I did.
But the book kind of challenges that assumption,
It does.
suggesting it's more about how we think about stress.
Interesting. How so?
Well, the example of the Vietnam helicopter gunners really highlights this.
Okay.
They only experienced the full physiological stress response after the danger had passed,
Really?
showing just how much our perception influences our experience.
Wow. So it's like we're not just puppets of our genes, you know, or slaves to our impulses.
Exactly.
So what does that mean for us?
It means we have a choice.
Okay.
So except Mihaly's point isn't about giving in to our limitations.
Right.
It's about understanding them so we can move beyond them.
It's like we've been handed this amazing tool,
Yeah,
our conscious mind,
right.
but there's no instruction manual.
Exactly. And by understanding how our minds work,
Yeah.
by recognizing these quirks and these biases that we've inherited,
Uh-huh.
we can start to gain more control
Okay.
over our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions.
So it's not about fighting our nature.
Wow.
It's about working with it,
I like that.
understanding it,
Mhm.
and using that knowledge to create a better future
Absolutely.
for ourselves and for the world around us.
You know, it makes you think about that idea from the book,
Yeah.
about the self being this evolving entity,
Right.
this information pattern that's competing for survival.
What kind of self will best serve us in the future?
Right. What kind of self will help us thrive in this world that's getting more and more complex?
It's a big question.
It is.
A little daunting, but also exciting.
I think so too.
It's like we have this opportunity
Yeah.
to shape our own evolution.
To choose the path we want to take.
Well, after this deep dive, I'm feeling a lot more optimistic,
Good.
more aware of my own mind,
Mm-hmm.
a little more in control,
That's great.
and definitely a lot more curious about what the future holds.
That's the spirit. The journey of understanding ourselves.
Yeah.
And our place in the grand scheme of things.
It's a big one.
It's never really finished. It's a lifelong exploration,
Right,
full of surprises and challenges,
for sure.
and ultimately the potential for growth and transformation.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the human mind.
My pleasure.
We hope it's given you some new insights
And some things to think about.
and inspired you to keep exploring these fascinating questions.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See you then.